Last 50, 60 years, Israel is completely underwater with both parties in terms of popularity. It's very underwater with the Democrats. And so, dunking on Netanyahu and saying all these things is very politically expedient. It's not going to happen, but it's a rallying cry to their base, and it's just in the conversation we were just touching on with socialism. You have anti-establishment on both parties, like right-wing populism or left-wing populism. One of them is going to win. And so one of the rallying cries to left-wing populism is all of this anti-Israel, Netanyahu's the devil and blah, 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 blah. You're going to see more of this. The Democrat Party is going to fully embrace this in this next election, and it's popular.
But the more the Democrats do that, the more the sentiment against Jewish people and Israel deepens. I mean, you've never seen polls like this in terms of sentiment around Jews.
And hate crimes.
Seeing a pretty strong performance in terms of earnings for this backdrop here. Mike Lee, jump in.
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be an unbelievable earnings quarter. I think all of these names are their price to earnings multiples. These stocks are up significantly. They're much cheaper than they were a year ago, given this earnings growth. But my thought is that the dollar amounts that these companies are going to spend on CapEx, you're just talking about Google with close to $200 billion over the next 12 months in AI CapEx. I think you're running into logistical logjams here in terms of land, energy, chips, components, you name it. They're not going to be able to spend this money if they want. So what's going to happen is they're going to cut these CapEx numbers slightly so that the market boosts up their stocks. What do you think, Ray? Do you think that's a possibility that some of these CapEx numbers for the hyperscalers come down?
It's going to be possible because you're right. I mean, there's a limitation. They can't build fast enough. They can't permit fast enough. But it's not stopping them from taking out the loans, taking out the bonds.
Anthropic and Elon Musk, who do say that the job market is going to be very different, that automation will replace jobs.
So Sham Shakram from the CTO of Palantir has said it best. You shouldn't be listening to the founders of a technology as to how it should be implemented. You should be asking the people in the field. And if you look at small businesses, how they're using it, they're getting increasingly more efficient. So you think about a contractor or a builder, instead of spending 2 or 3 hours a day doing paperwork, he's spending 20 minutes, right? And the rest of the time he's building. It's not going to be this job apocalypse I think a lot of these people are predicting.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah. Spending. As a result, the stock posted its worst day ever last week. It plummeted 25%. Your thoughts on the IBM story and what to expect from all these companies this week?
Yeah, so, chip stocks are now 20% of all market volume, which is insane. But Brad Kirshner has coined the term token flow. So if you are part of the token flow generating compute for these large language models for agentic AI, you are having a field day. It is an unbelievable time to be one of these companies as we embark on the largest infrastructure build out in the history of the world. So I think the market gets a lot of these stories wrong. So the chips got crushed on Friday based on this new Kimi model coming out from China. For chip stocks and for memory, it doesn't matter where the model comes from, whether it's Anthropic or whether it's an open source model from China. The fact of the matter is these are going to be utilized to a much greater degree at an exponentially increasing rate over the next few years. And to do that, you need a lot of compute to generate this compute. You need a lot of chips. So I think the first window into this quarter is going to come from Google's earnings and what they talk about in terms of their CapEx spend. Are they going to increase their numbers, and how much have they spent over the last quarter versus what they guided to, and that going forward? My thought is that at some point in the next few quarters, a lot of these hyperscalers are going to look like they're cutting numbers, where in reality, there's just not enough land, there's not enough energy, there's not enough chips, there's not enough supply to feed the beast, if you will. So with that, you'll probably get a great entry point to these chip makers, but I'd be a buyer of almost all of these right here.
Yeah, I mean, so would Tom Lee at Fundstrat. His note last night after the close, he writes, "We believe AI semi-DRAM sell-off is nearing an end, given signs of a top calling, and retrospective of Cisco from 1997 to 2000 shows multiple false tops."
Yeah, look, we have many, many years to go with these stocks, and I think there's a state of disbelief amongst the sell-side community in Wall Street and to the buy-side to a degree. And I think most of the buy-side and the sell-side have no idea how this works, and the ones that do are in a state of disbelief as to how big it is.
You know, I wonder how much this AI build-out and infrastructure is affecting inflation.
Yeah, look, I feel like you almost got to go back to the era of the 70s and 80s where it's like you got to physically handle hand someone your resume if you want them to look at it and have a conversation with the
elevator pitch. Elevator
well,
pitch.
because like the day where you can apply to hundreds of jobs a day on LinkedIn, right? You're no longer mailing a resume to an ad in the help wanted section of the New York Times, right? Like the world has changed, so you got to get out there, get on the street, and start pressing palms. Because I came into the professional workforce where people were just starting to apply online, kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think now it's almost impossible to get noticed even before AI was scraping everything, because the pool, it's just so big, right?
Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah, I was actually,
because I know you've been looking at semiconductors, but what Larry just said is true. Secretary Bessent just said to us on television live, we are finding U.S. watermarks on Chinese models. The secretary just said that, Mike.
Yeah, look, I think what's going on with open source versus closed source models is it's a narrative that's going to play out, but I think it's far from derailing this. This is going to be the largest investment cycle in the history of the country. And just like I think Larry's smart. I love his work. I'm just on the polar opposite of this trade. I think this goes on for years. I think the world of technology is changing. And if you understand the exponential growth of token demand, the semis, I 100% agree that we're going to get a slight pullback in CapEx spend from the Mag 7. I would be a seller of the Mag 7 and buyer of the chips, because whether you're using closed source or open source, you need compute. We do not have the land, the energy, the chips, the resources to be able to build out and meet this demand to the point where you're going to get over expansion. So I agree with a lot of your theses, but I think this is the wave of the future, and then we are off to the races.
Larry's up 398. This is the highs of the morning, up 1.5% on NASDAQ. Check chip and AI stocks. We're in the middle of AI week here on Mornings with Maria, and once again, the AI stocks are leading this market higher. Chip companies, semiconductor stocks are bouncing in a recovery mode after recent losses. Micron, for example, up better than 6% right now. Check the price of oil this morning in the middle of this war on Iran. Prices right now are at $84.90 a barrel. That's up 2% on crude oil. And interest rates have been spiking recently. The 10-year yield right now at 4.60%, up 1.25 basis points. Final thoughts from this all-star panel, real quick.
This weekend, President Trump, truth to poll, showing how popular a peace deal is with Iran. I think we're going to see something soon.
Mark Tepper.